Velkommen, welcome. We will do this webinar in English, both because we have Mario, who is standing next to me, with us from Spain, and we will also have some of the participants that will be in foreign language, so that's why we are continuing in English. So first of all, welcome to the webinar, where Alcadon and Legrand will tell you about how to transfer your PDU into a money-making machine and how to choose the right PDU for the future. So the agenda for today is a brief introduction about Alcadon and Legrand. After that, we will have a topic of how to maximize the value of your PDU. And on the last one, we have choosing the right PDU for the future. And when Mario is done with that, then we will have a Q&A. And under the webinar, you're welcome to answering sending questions in the chat. And also, if you could just tell us if the sound is okay where you're sitting, it would be good. And you can do that in the chat as well. So my name is Torsten Magnussen. I am sales manager at Alcadon. I am responsible for data center co-location and the enterprise market in the Danish area. Just shortly about Alcadon, we are a added value distributor, and we are representing Legrand, and we are represented in 8 different countries in the Nordic area of Europe. So now over to you, Mario, and also from my side, thank you for coming all the way to Denmark from Spain.
Thank you very much for the introduction. All right, and also thank you everyone for joining us today. Today we're going to be taking a look at how RAC PDUs can impact your business revenue. I am Mario Contador. I started as an engineer for Legrand, but for the past almost 4 years now, I've been the marketing manager for Legrand Data Center Solutions regarding KVM, cabinets containments, and also PDUs, which is the topic of the session of today. Already, the key takeaway that I want you to have out of the first slide is that I want you to be very aware that the PDU, the power distribution unit, is the last interface that you have before reaching your IT servers. This means that it's also your last opportunity to have some sort of control and monitoring before reaching that very important and expensive equipment that you have in your facility. As it's been mentioned before, I was brought here to see how a RAC PDU can be a money-making device for you. My thought on this, my answer is that this is not possible. That's not how I see it. Nonetheless, you have 2 very important things that you can extract out of the right PDU. First one, it can really help you in minimizing your operational costs, but it can also help you to avoid very significant costs due to downtime. So yeah, choosing the right product is very significant, not only for today, but also for the future. So introductions have been made at my end. I also would like to get to know you a bit at the other end. You will see a poll coming out now. I would like you to answer, how does your company right now host its servers? So you'll have about 20 seconds. And yeah, please answer so that we can check. I would like to get to know you a bit better. All right, I see answers coming in. Okay, 3 seconds. All right, thank you for answering. So, okay, I see a spread. Okay, thank you very much for the responses. We're gonna continue now with the session. The first question is obviously, why should I opt, you guys, for a smart PDU? If you are in the operational part, or you have been in the past in the operational side of a data center, you know the answer yourselves already. I'm quite sure of that. You know that you have basic PDUs, so no sort of monitoring intelligence whatsoever, and smart PDUs. You see here on your screen one of many different reports that let you know that smart PDUs are the preferred choice for data centers today. But the question is, why is this the case? What is it that data centers need that make them choose for smart PDUs? And that, well, you can see the forecast. They are expected to go more and more for smart PDUs in the future. So here you see a collection of the major data centers, major challenges that nearly all data centers face. This is the collection that I've made out of multiple interviews, discussions when I go and visit customers. This is basically the summary of all these conversations. The first challenge is about power capacity and provisioning. So this has to do with understanding how much you can push your current facility, right? It's like, can I add more servers to my facility? And if I can, how should I do this? Do you want to have this level of visibility? And a smart PDU will help in that. Then it has to do with energy management. So that's not how much can I push, but instead understanding what's happening with the energy that I have. And also a very important thing, it's environment monitoring. So this is not the what, but instead the how is my data center running at the moment. A very good analogy that I put for this is like running your data center without environmental monitoring is like going in a highway with your car at high speed, but basically not having a dashboard in front of you. So you don't know at what speed you're going, you don't know the revolutions, you don't know how many gas you have left, or if you have any other problems, like maybe an alert on the coolant or something. Environmental monitoring for your data center is exactly the same. It's very important to understand if you are at the right temperature to avoid issues, or if you have humidity problems, condensation, all these sort of things. And one thing that came up more and more over the years was keeping up with new regulations. You know, we have a lot of different legislations coming over, everything new all the time. This is a challenge that data centers are facing. And again, a smart PDU should help with this. And a couple of new things showed up in the most recent years. One has to do with power quality. This comes from how power hungry data centers are becoming nowadays. So data center operators, what I extracted out of the conversations was that of course, they want to make the best out of the power that they have available. So they need power of good quality. They need to be aware if that's the case. And also with data centers becoming so critical for our society, they are subject to more physical and, for sure, the more frequent cyber attacks. So security is also a key concern. All in all, all these challenges, they really boil down to your uptime and your business continuity, because in the end, what this means is also money. This can cost you a lot of money. Any smart PDU should address the first 4 challenges. The power quality and network security, this demands much more expertise. And that's what we're going to be taking a look throughout the entire presentation. So first of all, as I said, you have basic and intelligent PDUs. A basic PDU, it's basically, well, you have here a PDU. This is an intelligent one, but a basic PDU, it's a PDU that just feeds power to your IT server. So you plug your servers in this, and you have no power data, no connectivity, no metering, no visibility whatsoever. On the other hand, if you go for an intelligent PDU, we're going to be taking a look now at the first 2 challenges, right? So power provisioning and also energy metering, because your benefits on this regard are multiple. And it has to do also depending on the PDU that you choose. So, for example, the first thing, to get a clear picture of your IT power consumption. If you go for the first level of intelligent PDUs, which is what we call an inlet metered. So here I have one PDU with me, and you can see that you could, at the inlet, is where you collect all the different metrics. So if you choose for an inlet metered PDU, then you will have the possibility to get visibility on the power demand of the multiple feeds that you have. So feed A, feed B, for example, and also you can get to know how your phases are balanced throughout your facility. It is also a PDU that will let you know, because you get full visibility of the IT load in your rack, will help you to monitor and provide visibility on efficiency metrics like power usage efficiency, a very well-known thing across the data center industry, right? So PUE. But you can go a step further. So you could also identify true power consumers and idle equipment. That's if you go, instead of for inlet, if you go for outlet metered PDUs, so one step further, you gain extra granularity. So all the different metrics that an intelligent PDU can give you, you can apply to every server that you have connected to this PDU. This will help you, for example, different use cases. This will help you in comparing the performance of different IT equipment that you have in your facility. So, for example, imagine that you are transferring your software, your programs from an old server to a new one. With these metrics, you can evaluate the performance of the different servers running the same software. That's a very common use case of this. But also, if your business has multiple business units, it will also help you in allocate the costs to the different business units if you know that different business units in your company are using different servers. So these are just some examples of what you could do with an outlet metered PDU. Now, the number one reason why everyone buys a Smart PDU is to prevent downtime. And that has to do with the alert capabilities that you get out of every metric that you have in a PDU. That's the number one thing you have to do. So you get the PDU and you have to set it up, and you have the possibility of having upper and lower threshold levels for all the different metrics we offer and any other rack PDU manufacturer should offer to you. And you can have even multiple threshold levels, like a first level to alert you, and then a critical level. I mean, you should already have taken action before the critical level took place. You can get notified either via email, phone, whatsoever. And with all that, then you can make informed power capacity decisions. And naturally, it should be the case that you could integrate the Smart PDU into whatever DCIM system that you have, so that you can have detailed reporting and audit possibilities. To finish with this slide, I know I've mentioned inlet metered PDUs and outlet metered PDUs. I don't want to leave it without mentioning that you can also have the possibility of outlet switching PDUs. So that will help you, for example, what that does is that it gives you the possibility to remotely turn on and off the outlets that you have in the PDU. This means basically turning off the equipment when it's not being used. So it will really help you in optimizing the costs in your businesses. So with that being said, now we jump to the challenge that I mentioned of environmental monitoring. Why is this important? Well, this is very important, and we see this trend already. It's been announced by all the big players in the industry, because 1 degree in the white space really makes a difference. You are probably familiar with the split that I'm showing right now on the screen. This split shows that all the energy that you need in your data center for everything that it's not the IT equipment, so basically everything that you need to have your facility running, it's normally divided in 2 things. It's normally about 50% of that energy being used for your cooling solution and 50% for the rest. Or what you see here, you have other studies saying 60-40. That's what I've taken. Well, there is a very well-known study, maybe you've seen it, from Energy Star, that proved that by increasing 1 Fahrenheit degree, so about more than half a Celsius, the operating temperature of your white space area, the energy savings that you can get in your cooling solution, so directly savings in your bill, are about 5%. And that's only by increasing the temperature 1 Fahrenheit. So if we look at where we are today, the traditional operating temperatures of a data center being between 21 to 24 degrees, this, of course, can vary depending on your location. Again, I come from Spain. Here in the Nordics, this can be different, but that's the range, more or less, right? If you go to higher temperatures, this can mean a lot of money that you save. Of course, going to higher temperatures demands expertise, demands knowledge, demands monitoring, because if you go carelessly to these higher temperatures, you run into the risk of having hotspots. And that's something that you must be aware of, because a hotspot could really compromise the life of your IT equipment. and also could give you the exact opposite effect of what you wanted. If you have a hotspot, your cooling solution will run harder than it should to compensate for it. So this will incur you, this will bring extra costs to you. The ASHRAE Association, it's saying now that you should have 3 temperature sensors at the front of the rack, top, middle, and bottom, and then 3 temperature sensors at the rear of the rack. So front and rear, in total 6. Any smart PDU should allow you to do this. It's something that should be plug and play, pretty easy to install, and it will give you this visibility. Actually, as I said, it's not something that it's coming out of thin air. The big players that you all know, they are already doing it. So you can see on the screen, Google announced going to 80 Fahrenheit. So it's 26.6 Celsius. So up to ASHRAE you saw before, you can have, they recommend 27 degrees for the white space area. They are going to that upper level. But the same was announced by Equinix back in 2022, I think. Yeah, they said they were going to go step by step towards that operating temperature. And so did Microsoft, for example. They also said we are going to 27 degrees Celsius. So yeah, they know about these studies. They know about these figures. They are going for this temperature. And of course, they have to control what's happening. I've mentioned temperature sensors, but here you have what we as Legrand offer as a full environmental monitoring suite. So you have temperature, but also humidity, you have dust particles, you have water leakage, because very important if you are already running into liquid cooling solutions, all these trends are coming up. You have plenty, and you can see here how they look in the web interface of the PDU. I also mentioned before the different levels of thresholds that you can have. You can see in yellow, the first level, in red, the critical alerts. So all this is registered, monitored. This is what a PDU should bring you. And now we move to the last challenge that any smart PDU should help you in addressing. And this has to do with complying with keeping up with new regulations. I know in the European Union, it is a hot topic, the ESG. So this is the framework that helps different stakeholders to understand how sustainably businesses are running. So ESG, it has to do with environmental, social, and governance. So we're talking about how your business is dealing with energy efficiency, with recycling processes, how employees are being treated, or cybersecurity governance, for example. But this is a very broad topic, and it's coming down in the end. It's being divided into multiple smaller, still large, but smaller regulations and standards. And I want to touch on one of those standards today, or one of those regulations. It's the EU Taxonomy Directive. Question: why do I want to focus in this EU Taxonomy? Because it is a classification system for economic activities. So, for example, your data center, that's an economic activity, and it is based on reported metrics. And what does a smart PDU do? It measures. So a smart PDU will directly help you to comply, or at least provide visibility on the multiple of the things that the EU Taxonomy is demanding out of you. I also want to mention, before I go to that, this is not mandatory today for European data centers. It is mandatory, though, for some other businesses. But as far as I know, not for European data centers today. But also, from experience, we know that what it's voluntary today probably will be mandatory in the future. So I will just show a few examples that I collected of how a smart PDU can help you in complying with this. The first one, for example, is if you have to report on cumulative and instantaneous power usage. So that's already something that an outlet-metered PDU will help you in doing. But also, if you have to optimize the software to minimize energy demand of the IT equipment, we already mentioned, an outlet-metered PDU can help you in comparing this performance between different servers. So something you can get out of your smart PDU. You can here see a whole set of things that an outlet-metered PDU will help you in achieving. So if you have to decommission and remove unused equipment, or consolidate services that are not being used properly enough, so it's not optimal, or shut down totally the equipment that is not being used, again, visibility that you get thanks to the granularity that an outlet PDU gives you. If you have to identify IT equipment that all of a sudden has a high demand, that's also something that you can get out of an outlet metered PDU, because you have not only the instantaneous data, but also the cumulative data. So you can see if it's happening for one specific reason at a specific period of time, all these things, and also measure total energy delivered to your IT systems. I now bring some other things that the EU Taxonomy is mentioning. So this has to do with having tools that allow you to reduce energy use when possible. So that has to do with outlet switched PDUs, because if you notice that you have a server that it's not running, you could just switch it off remotely. And we already mentioned before environmental monitoring. The EU Taxonomy is also mentioning that you have to indicate the air temperature and the temperature that it's going to the IT equipment. So all these things, a Smart PDU can help you with. With this, we come to the end of the first part of the session. I would like to ask you now, you will get another poll. What type of PDU is your company using at the moment? Is it a basic PDU with no intelligence? Or is it an intelligent PDU? Or maybe something different? Right, 3 seconds, answers coming in. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I can see that most of you are using intelligent PDUs already. Now it is a thing if you are also, and for that you can contact us, if you are using them to the fullest that you can. That's one thing that we can help you with for sure, if that's the case. But with that being said, as I mentioned, we've covered the first 4 points, the bare minimum that any Smart PDU should help you with. Now we move to the expertise. So that has to do with power quality and physical and network security. This is where we, with Raritan and server technology PDUs, have been investing most of our time and efforts over the past years, because we really believe that this is where we bring you the most value nowadays. That's what we're going to be checking in the coming slides. But before I jump there, just a brief short introduction. Raritan and server technology, with the latest data from Omdia reports, we have a global market share above 30% for Smart PDUs. The second largest PDU manufacturer, it's less than half our size. I want to mention this because in multiple countries, we are seen as one of the most expensive PDU manufacturers. I want to say this quote unquote. It's we will enter into those details later. But yet, even with this information, we are being chosen by a clear mile by most of the consumers out there, by most of you guys. So the reason for that, it's coming in the next slides. I hope that you see the value that we are bringing to you guys in the coming minutes. So why do we put our time into power quality and into cybersecurity? Because we see this as the best way to minimize your downtime, because this also equals minimizing your revenue losses. Here you have some data, maybe you're familiar with it, coming from the Uptime Institute reports. Their latest report let us know that most of the downtime incidents, actually more than 50%, have a cost above $100,000. And actually 16% of those, they were reported to cost more than $1 million. So downtime, it's very significant for your business. I've collected here a couple of very well-known examples back from 2021. You can see Meta and Amazon. Meta, they had a 6-hour blackout, and well, they lost all the applications that you are familiar with, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook. 6 hours, but also it affected the entrance of their employees to the buildings, their internal communications. This had a cost for them of about 60 million. Amazon, back in 2021, they were averaging sales of about almost $10,000 a second. And they had a blackout of 1 hour. So that's 3,600 seconds. If you do the math, we are talking about almost $36 million in revenue losses for 1 hour of downtime incident, which is crazy numbers, right? If you go to not downtime, but a security breach, then the cost really peaks. In this case, the average is reported to be $4.45 million for this kind of incidents. So with that, we decided to put a lot of effort first into power quality. First thing we did is that we improved the metering accuracy of all the metrics that we give you by 50%. So we took our PDUs from 1% metering accuracy down to 0.5. But we didn't just stop there. We also included very relevant metrics for the safety and the operational situation of your data center. For example, I'm mentioning here a few. The first one is to having metrics on the neutral line. If very basics of electricity, as you know, you need the line in the circuit and then the neutral to return the electricity back to ground safely. This is used because neutral is a line that offers no resistance for electricity, and electricity is always following the path of least resistance. So if you have a problem with the neutral line, this could mean that you have resistance here, and then the electricity could be going somewhere else. So measuring the neutral is very important because you could have high voltages or load imbalances. But if bad comes to worst, then maybe the electricity is going somewhere else in your facility, maybe through other metal parts like, I don't know, piping, or maybe an employee of yours, when he's doing some labor, if he touches something and you have a problem with the neutral line, maybe he gets an electroshock. So understanding the neutral situation is key. That's why we brought it to the PDU. And I also want to mention harmonic distortion. In an ideal situation, the power that you have in your power supply will be the power that you receive in your IT servers, so 100%. In the real world, that's not the case. You have multiple machines in your facility. You have your transformer, you have your UPS, you have the PDUs. And all these devices are inserting some sort of noise, distortion. Harmonic distortion is how this is called. This is making just the electricity go to waste, dissipated as heat. It is key to have this to the minimum value possible, of course, considering how expensive a data center can be. So we thought, where could be the best place to have a measurement of harmonic distortion? And we came to the conclusion that obviously at the very end of the power chain, so right before, as I said at the very beginning, the last interface before reaching your IT servers. So by measuring harmonic distortion in the PDU, you will get a clear picture of how much power is being dissipated as heat so that you can take corrective actions. We have many more metrics. I'm not going to enter into those details, but we could have a separate training session for this. Things like current inrush, crest factor, dips and swells. There is a lot that you can do now with new metrics that we have brought to PX4 PDUs. But we didn't even stop there. We didn't stop in the metrics, the measurements. We also took action on the situation. Let's say that you face a situation of sadly having some downtime incident. Again, if you're familiar with the operation of a data center, you will know that, I'm going to bring back the PDU for that. Let's say that you have an IT server connected here that has a problem, and it makes the whole circuit breaker, which this PDU, I think it doesn't have it, but you have the whole circuit breaker tripping. So your whole, let's say you have it here, your whole branch goes down. You know, what you have to do is that you have to go on site and you have to replicate the problem. This means putting the circuit breaker back on, and you have to start plugging in server by server until you replicate the problem, right? This is time consuming. This can be extremely time consuming, actually. So what we did is that we included something that is called circuit breaker trip forensics. So when that happens, what we do is that we will let you know which one was the outlet that had the problem, so that you can automatically pinpoint the server that needs some sort of servicing, and you can take action. Not only that, we take automatically screenshots of all the metrics of that outlet so that you can analyze the root cause of the problem. And also, what we do is that we also isolate the specific outlet. So when you turn, what you can do is that you can turn power back on, and all the other outlets will go live, and this one will remain off. Again, just to make sure that you are back up and running as soon as possible, minimizing your costs. And with this, I come to an end when it comes to power quality. I'm jumping now to cybersecurity. And before I start talking, I want you to show, I want to show you a video that I think people tend to overlook, how critical cybersecurity can be, not for your IT servers, but for common devices like PDUs or an UPS.
Armis has identified a critical set of vulnerabilities, dubbed TL Storm. In the widely used Smart UPS by APC, a subsidiary of Schneider Electric, attackers could leverage the vulnerabilities to breach internal networks and deactivate Smart UPS devices, or even manipulate the power flow to disrupt downstream devices or completely destroy the UPS itself. One critical vulnerability relates to the authenticity validation of firmware files used by the UPS devices and impacts every model in the UPS line. Attackers could abuse this vulnerability to install malicious firmware on a smart UPS device and establish a stronghold for launching additional attacks. For example, using such a stronghold, an attacker could initiate a ransomware attack, threatening to alter the power supply to a data center supporting critical ICU applications. Smart UPS devices that support the Smart Connect feature for connecting to the APC cloud are at a greater risk by these vulnerabilities, as they are exposed to direct attacks from the internet. Two of the discovered vulnerabilities are in the TLS implementation of these devices, responsible for the secure connection to the APC cloud. In one scenario, an attacker could establish a man-in-the-middle position, reroute the encrypted TLS connection, and exploit one of the vulnerabilities to masquerade as the APC cloud and control targeted UPS devices. In a second scenario, an attacker could exploit a memory corruption bug in the TLS implementation to reach remote code execution and take over targeted UPS devices without any authentication. In either case, the potential physical and financial damages could be significant. For example, an attacker could vary voltage to the manufacturing equipment, leading to equipment damage and plant downtime. An attacker could even modify the UPS power conversion to heat up the UPS itself, causing it to smoke, ignite, and potentially destroy critical IT infrastructure. Armis and Schneider Electric have worked together to ensure the proper security mitigations are being provided.
Okay, so now you know how significant a cybersecurity issue can be. And this is a video that they created because, of course, they sorted the problem. But how we see this is that you shouldn't have this kind of problems in the first place at all. So what is it that we do in terms of cybersecurity? When you get to buy one of our PDUs, Raritan PDUs, you are accessing to the most advanced firmware solution and the most secure firmware solution in the RAC PDU market. Just a short introduction on the history of the firmware. It comes from back in 2008 because AMD contacted Raritan back in the day, and they were asking to develop a firmware solution for their AMD controllers, their motherboards. So they heavily funded this development, and then Raritan used all those all that progress to create the firmware solution for RAC PDUs. As you can imagine, this solution was far more advanced than what RAC PDUs needed back in the day. Then Legrand came into the picture, acquired Raritan, and what they do is that they, of course, explore what are the assets that the companies have when they acquire them. And they noticed this firmware solution. So they kept on investing in the firmware solution to a point that it's actually being taken over by multiple Legrand entities like Legrand Audio and Video Solutions, Middle Atlantic Products, and also Server Technology in 2020. They are also part of Legrand, and they had a different firmware solution. They compared their firmware solution and Xerox. It was clear to them, okay, we need to take over Xerox. Other PDU solutions that we have in the other regions, like Clever PDUs, they are all also using Xerox firmware. Where do we stand today? The Xerox firmware stack in 2025, it's right now being used by more than 5,000 Legrand products. We have a team of 20 men working in development and testing, specifically on this firmware solution. And over time, a total of 150 man-years of test effort and development have been accumulated. But these are just numbers. The question is, how do we confirm its security to you? And this is what we do. First of all, we have the best support you can get in the market. One example here, it's Raritan PX2 PDUs. This is a generation of PDUs. If you're not familiar with it, that it's more than 15 years old. The latest firmware update addressing features, vulnerabilities, whatever new things come to the market, was released in February this year. The second largest PDU manufacturer, they had an old PDU that it's 8 years old. The latest firmware release was from July 2024. But the worst is not in the past. You have to choose the product for the future. Our new generation continues to receive free support, and it will continue to do so. On the contrary, the new generation of PDUs from this same supplier forces you to pay a subscription after 1 year of free firmware support. We are talking about downloading a firmware update. After the first year, I know for a fact that the 3-year subscription for this service is about 100 euros per rack PDU. So if we talk rough numbers, 100 racks, which is not a lot, probably you will have 200 PDUs. We are talking of a recurring cost every 3 years of 20k euros that are not at the beginning of your budgeting process, but that will come after. And you should expect your PDU to last more than 3 years. So this is a recurring cost you will have. But also, what is it that we do? We are the only ones in the market doing third-party vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. What we do is that we hand over our PDUs to a company that is specialized in cybersecurity, and they are the ones trying to intrude, penetrate, find vulnerabilities in our solution, in our firmware solution. They will certify this against the best practices and industry standards, and this is something we can provide you with. We are investing in making sure that our solution has no problems for you guys to ensure your uptime and business continuity. But also we keep on putting more things in security, things that, again, we are the only ones doing. We are the only rack PDU manufacturer with Secure Boot. Secure Boot is a feature that makes sure that your PDU is starting only with firmware that is trusted, that it's coming from the PDU manufacturer. This is a hardware investment. It has to do with the chip that you use in your PDU. You have here just an example of something familiar to you, probably, the booting screen of an Apple device. So, for example, I just want to show you here that, for example, if you're installing a new firmware update, your iPhone has Secure Boot, or on your computer will probably will do so too. If you're installing a firmware update, it doesn't go from 0 to 100 all the way. This happens in stages. Well, the first stage takes place in the PDU chip. A PDU chip with Secure Boot, which is more expensive, allows the PDU manufacturer to insert the crypto keys, the keys that will check. The first thing they will do is that they will check the validity of any external code that is coming into the PDU, so that we make sure that no malicious code is being installed into your PDU at any given time. This is something that we do at our manufacturing facility. And again, we are the only one having this type of chip for a rack PDU. If you don't have this, then you're exposed to some sort of malicious code coming into your PDU. The situation for starting a PDU is not only when you are installing new firmware. This could have to do with because you have a blackout, worst case scenario, or if you are power cycling your facility, running some tests. So again, this is an investment we make in the hardware to make sure that you are safe. We prevent you from having this malicious software. But we, again, don't stop there. We go one step further, and this has to do with secure element. This has directly to do with the video that you saw before. The connection between the PDU and the server, because again, it's an intelligent PDU, so it's connected to the network. This is encrypted, obviously. Now, what in very basic terms, what happens is that the PDU is sharing some codes, some crypto keys with the server. And then the server also shares some keys back, and then they agree on what's going to be, this is called a security handshake. They agree on how the connection is going to be encrypted. The issue here is that every PDU is storing these keys in the PDU as plain text. So if someone manages to access those keys, that simple plain text, what they could do is what you saw before, a man-in-the-middle attack. They basically, because they know what they are going to receive from the PDU, they know what they need. Sorry, the PDU almost fell. They know what they need to answer. And what you will do is that you will think that you are connecting to the network, but instead you are connecting to a man in the middle. That's how they will manage to alter the voltage, the current. They can remotely turn on and off all the different switches. How do we solve this? Again, we invested in having an extra chip in our PDUs. This is called secure element. What we do is that all this plain text is not plain text anymore. Everything, all the information is encrypted, and all this connection happens inside the PDU. So if someone managed to tamper the PDU in any way, there is no way that they could extract this data. There is no way that this man-in-the-middle attack could happen. And with that, I come to an end on the cybersecurity part. I want to also let you know about a new release that we've done. Maybe it will be useful for some of you, depending on the business type that you have. This is called the Universal PDU. I don't know if you've seen this before, but Universal PDU is something that we developed many years ago for one specific hyperscaler because of their business model. And we are now launching it to the general public. So Universal PDU is a PDU that in the inlet will not have here, so here in the inlet, it will not have a power cord with it, but it will also not look like this. It will look like what you have in the screen. It will have an inlet that can receive any type of Legrand power cord that it's also intelligent and with different power ratings. So basically, you can use the same PDU for your US locations, for your Japanese locations, for your European locations, but it can also help you to adapt to future needs. So you will have a cord that is one phase 32 amps, and then if the equipment that you have in the rack will need a three-phase 32 amps solution, then you just need to swap the cord. There is no need to change the PDU anymore. Of course, the savings here are significant, but we didn't stop here either. We went one step ahead. We included intelligence in the cords as well. So in order to save time in setting up everything, we have developed and patented a solution so that the PDU will recognize the new cord and preset all the alarms that you have in place so that you save all this deployment time. Here you have information, for example, on what it's on average costing Legrand to have SKUs, part numbers, maintenance. So if you have multiple, a Universal PDU could really save you this kind of hidden cost that people do not know about. And now it's going to be time for the questions. So here you have some examples of some of the customers that are coming to us because of our cybersecurity features. And I'm going to give room for you with all the questions.
Yes, thank you for a good presentation, Mario. So we have the first question is coming in from Morten. How are firmware updates handled centrally and manually?
Okay, so do I understand correctly that you mean how are we handling our firmware? If that's the case, this is all done in-house. I don't know if that's what the question is addressing. You have multiple, if what you're talking is about installation of the firmware, then you have multiple ways of doing this. I'm not familiar with all of them. Again, this is more on the very on-site aspect of the business. One of the things that you can do is what we call USB 0-second deployment. So you have it in an USB and you can just plug and play. But you have to adapt. You have multiple ways. I will need to check, and I can check those for you. Because in some data centers, if you have external people supporting, like a partner, you need to give this level of clearance to allow them to come with an USB stick, which I know sometimes is a problem as well. I'll need to, that's something I can check for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and before I move on to the next questions, I just have to say that it's now 10:45, so we have used the 45 minutes of the time that we have booked with you. We will continue with answering questions for the next 10-15 minutes, depending on how many we have. But if you have to leave now, then we will record everything and we will send out a link so that you can see all the questions and answers afterwards. Yeah. So until the next questions, again from Morten. Does the PDU meet requirements in relations to the GDPR, ISO 27001, or other relevant standards?
Yep. So yes, that's a good question. Thank you very much. We do. Now, there are not that many standards that are relating to PDUs. They have more to do with the company. We can provide those certifications. They are available in our website. For example, ISO 27001, if I'm not wrong, it has to do with the way the company is handling information. So not with the PDU itself. All this information we have again, for you available to access, but we do. This is something that we take all our R&D centers for power products. They have been tested and they have been certified to comply with all the relevant standards. Yeah. We can provide those.
Cool. Yeah, so then we have one from the private chat here. How important is it to use intelligent PDUs if you would like to run a sustainable and modern data center?
I mean, this is key for sure. I mean, you've seen this in with all the different examples in the presentation. If you have a basic PDU, you lose visibility when you get close to the servers. So there is no way for you, for example, to optimize the load that it's going to have visibility on what servers are being not utilized properly, so they are underused. So if you have the aim of running a data center in that way, having an intelligent PDU, and of course, if you go to an outlet switched outlet meter, that's the best you can get. That's how you reach that type of data center running.
Okay, thank you. Next question here. We have one in the chat here from Finn Vanman. I use a Power IQ to install firmware, etc. in our data center.
Yeah, that's one of the ways that you can do it, indeed. So if you have this kind of solution has to do with the centrally, you can deploy to all the different PDUs the firmware updates. That's one of the things. You can time these things also. You can set them up, for example. So yeah, that's one of the different ways you can do. Yeah.
Okay. So is that a free software to use, Power IQ, or is that something that you have to buy extra?
To be honest in this regard, I'm not familiar with the use of Power IQ. So I've always been focusing on the PDU, but not on the software, the Power IQ. So I will need to check.
Okay. I can see we got an answer here that we have to buy a license. Okay. So thank you for the answer, Finn. Next question here. Can my intelligent PDU integrate with other systems to enhance remote management and automation in my data center?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I briefly commented before. So you have the possibility of integrating not our PDUs, the PX4, but any smart PDUs will allow you to do so. To this type of DCIM solutions, for example. So Sunbird, back in the day, was part also of Raritan. Now it's not the case anymore, but the partnership, for example, between these two companies is very close. So that's a possibility you can do. Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Let's see if there's any more. Yeah, I can see I have one more here in the private chat. So let's see here. Yeah, how can the use of intelligent PDUs prevent power-related downtime in my data center?
Yeah, this has to do all with the first thing that you have to do when you receive your smart PDU, which is setting the alerts that you need to prevent the situation. You have a lot of different metrics that you can put in place. And as I said, you have two different types of alarms. You have the first warning, and then you have the critical level. You are very close to having an issue. You can have an issue in very different ways in a data center. It's such a complex facility. It's not like I mean, when I was a kid 20 years ago, that's that's not the case anymore. What I know today is that you need to be aware of so many different things with new servers that have crazy power needs. And then maybe you have something that it's not so relevant there and you're ignoring, and maybe it will give you a problem. So yeah, this is something that is key, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And then we have another question here from Morten. Are the virtualization of energy consumption distributed by rack/server, e.g. with CO2 figures?
As far as I know, okay, this is a very detailed question, more than I'm not that technical. As far as I know, my answer will be no initially, but I will need to check. I don't think we have the CO2 figures for a PDU. It maybe has to do more with the software, but that's something I will ask for sure.
So we will get back to you on that one, Morten.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was all the questions that came in. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would like to, of course, thank all of you that has joined the webinar, and I would like to thank you, Mario, for coming all the way from Spain to do the presentation. And then, of course, I hope to see you all another time when we have another webinar with another topic. So
thank you very much
this time.
Thank you.